Hello, welcome to another episode of Full Circle with me, Onyx. And, I was like in a bad mood. I was like stuck in my history, in my programming. And then I got out of it. I just had to sit in my garbage, you know, and just torture myself until the cycle ran its course. You can only listen to that record so many times when it's playing. And I think we learn to say, oh, I'm in one of my mental routines. I've been triggered and I'm unconsciously playing this tape, this brainwashing tape of self pity or anger, frustration, reactivity, whatever it is. And, you try to resist it. You're like, oh, I'm so angry. And I go into a self beat up cycle, self torture, and it's needless and pointless. And it's like a inner prison. It's like no one can hurt me as much as I hurt myself. And yeah, this is where we're starting the introduction to channeling. Recognizing when you're stuck in your programming, your story, your narrative, your perspective, and then learning to get out of it. And so I found myself, so we can slip into a mood. We can slip into like part of a character within our personality and play it out, and we're unconscious why it's playing. Like it overrides us. These attitudes, these judgments, like this part of your personality, and you're like, you hate yourself maybe when you're in this polarized piece of your character, your personality, and then once you've exhausted that energy, you get a break and you're back to yourself. And you're like, I don't understand why I was so pissed off, or I don't understand. Or you block it out, you know, whatever it is. And I think you become more aware, more conscious. So then you're like, oh, I'm starting to play that old narrative, that old tape in my head, or I'm starting those self abuse routines. Uh, and you hurry and you stop it. You push stop. You throw away that. Uh, you stop playing that in your head, and then you learn to switch out and put something better on. You change the channel, and so it's part of self mastery. So after I was in this very polarized, negative state of not getting what I wanted, feeling I went to some inner child wounding, some more shadow stuff to take care of. And a lot for me, it's not really about talking it out with the person and processing it like a therapy session. It's more like I feel it in my body, and and I experience a lot of it in my mind. Just this like sitting in a dark corner beating yourself up until you're done. And then the contrast of not being in it is so polarizing, so clear. Oh, I'm back to myself. I'm back to balance. And then, okay, now that I'm clear, here I am. I noticed there was uh, an intuitive thing coming to me. It was about channeling and clearing out your history, not being attached to your narrative, all that stuff. Uh, but self care. So, self care becomes really important because you have to learn how to clear out your chakras. You have to learn how to clear yourself. Uh, And I feel like it's really important. So I have some crystals and water, very new age of me, right? It's an experiment to see how it goes, since I really love working with crystals and stones. Uh, and, you know, crystal, or clear glass, lens, is a really good visual aid for what channeling is. And when you learn to clear energy, when you learn to clear your mind, when you learn to clear your heart, each level of clearing expands your awareness to channel. And I think we see all these very maybe advanced channelers or people channeling in different ways, entities, beings, they give them names and they call them guides, and they're here telling us about the galactic whatever, and you know, and on one level, you can't take any of that serious. I, you have to say that's their experience. That's how they build a story. That's how they understand life, or that's how we're communicating. Uh, but we forget the roots of channeling is number one, channeling energy, channeling the life force, um, and also merging with that life force, that greater intelligence. And we forget you can channel your own talent, your own skills, your own wisdom. And that's so I think we'll a lot of times think of channeling as way far out. I have to go to above my head. I have to go to my crown chakra and above to my soul star, and I have to do the 13th chakra, you know, and or I have to somehow there's a greater intelligence outside of me from Sirius, Arcturians, or in a different time period, channel Jesus, or, and that may, be a real thing, but you've missed building the roots of your tree of life. You've missed uh, becoming a vessel to hold that energy or even understand it. So I feel it's not a real benefit to not be prepared to integrate that information. So on my journey of channeling, I might be walking down the street to get to work, and I feel a very strong kind of like insight come up within me, and like almost like an inner awareness, like it's being beamed to my subconscious, it's being beamed to my body, but then it arises as information through my own consciousness. And so it's like I thought of that. I'm like, whoa, you really need to investigate not being judgmental. I literally, almost hear a voice next to me pointing out, hey, it's time to not be judgmental. Like you're at a stage in your development now that you can let that go. And so then I'm like walking and I'm like, what is judgment? What is being judgmental? Why would I utilize this? And I'm thinking, well, it must be a way to protect myself. A negative reaction is kind of like creating resistance between me and something I'm fearing. Oh, and so fear and judgment like go together. And so, and then when you, and so it can come to you step by step, moment by moment. So this morning, after I was in my mood, I was in my history. History always smells like crap because it's stuff that needs to be released. So there's a continuous purging, releasing, clearing work that goes on as you're continuously rebirthing, continuously upgrading. If there's not a release, you cannot then consume. So you can't digest more information until you release the old. Give up the old you, give up the old story, heal that wounded child, yes. And that's work. And mind, body, spirit, it affects you, mind, body, and spirit. So when you're channeling, it could feel like forces are working against you. And what's happening is the more light, more energy, more spiritual, higher frequencies you're working with, the more denser, difficult, heavier your old state of your what you thought is what you think is current, your old baggage gets heavier, stinkier, harder to manage. And so it's like you have to let go of the load. You have to uh, get rid of all the cargo that you're this luggage that you've been carrying around, uh, or it feels like a psychic attack. It can come on as a physical illness. We get vague symptoms of chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, Hodgkin's disease, which is kind of like the onset of cancer of the lymph system. So you get autoimmune disorders, diseases, and really a lot of that body aches and pains, feeling tired, those aren't ascension symptoms as you're told. They are, you need to release the baggage. Your body holds on it as cellular memory. Your nervous system is holding on to it. So we can create a crisis for ourselves because we're like, I'm channeling all this energy, I'm taking some spiritual workshops, I want to hang out with my angel 24 hours, and so what's happening is you're building up a whole bunch of contrast. And the contrast makes things very clear for you to make that choice. You look in the mirror and go, oh God, I feel like shit. Or, oh, the people I'm hanging around with, I now can't handle that energy. I now don't want to talk like that. I now don't find comfort in these foods. You're literally having like an allergic reaction to life. And the cure is letting go, releasing, and unclogging those pipes, turning off that linear ego brain, you know, the 3D brain that has its function to get you to point A to point B and deal with all the other people on the planet, in a constructive way. But when you start to work with like channeling energy, or you're wanting to explore higher dimensions, deeper self-realizations, you just be prepared that the old you can't go with you. The language you used to use needs to upgrade. Your thinking model needs to upgrade. Your belief system, your perspective on life needs to upgrade as you're being rebirthed. So you really just can't pick one aspect of spirituality uh, because they're all interwoven. Eventually, you know, it, so you can't just select one area of spirituality. You kind of have to work on all of it eventually to to get you to have to climb the mountain. uh, so that was a lot of information, and it really boils down to that all that past stuff that you're not dealing with, that's compartmentalized or you're avoiding, uh, needs to be cleared out. And so empty mind, hollow bone, void consciousness, These are expressions of this clearing out. I like to think of being clear like a crystal, you know? And so the energy can flow through it. So you might be a very negative person. And when you realize you're just dialed in and aligned to negativity, you're just channeling negativity. That becomes your base. That becomes your default mode. So be really honest with yourself. So honesty and pride, these things are there. Be honest with yourself. I have to say, my default mode is depression, defeat, uh, and probably right next to it is self pity. When you feel defeated, you're going to whine about it. You're going to get upset and moody and throw a temper tantrum, a silent temper tantrum, self pity, and you might go into some self sabotage. So, knowing how far left you swing and how far right you swing, when I'm in the other direction, is optimistic. I have faith in humanity, and anything is possible. And so the pendulum kind of swings between these two extremes. And learning to become neutral or clear or empty, detached, is something that you need to master. It's like, okay, I want to channel, or I want to learn to change the channel. I want to learn to switch stations, switch frequencies. And so at will, at command, by choice, uh, learning how to become neutral, non-polarized, centered in your own being, positively charged. So neutrality is the baseline. It's kind of like just clear. No agenda, no motive, just crystal clear. A blank canvas. Then you get to choose what colors you wish to paint with, what to create with, what vibration to align with. And so you got to be able to do that at will and masterfully. So it's an everyday journey, it's an all the time thing. Throughout the day, I try to neutralize. I do all sorts of fun little techniques. And this is a really big thing. A lot of people seek the technique for not understanding it's the change of the person. There's this transformation, this alchemy process. You physically, mentally, and spiritually, mind body connection, become that state of awareness, that state of being. You alter yourself. You literally kind of like shapeshift into neutrality. You shapeshift deeply, authentically into positively. So it's like when you add dye to a cup of water, it changes color, and it's still water and it's still dye. It's evenly dispersed and the whole thing looks black. Then maybe it settles and the dye might be a poor quality. It has like granules, it sinks, and maybe it separates over time. Then you stir the cup, kicking up the dirt, and it changes color again. It's like that. Um, and so working with spirituality, working with magic, working with all this, you become more sensitive. You learn to channel naturally. If you're not aware of it, you feel like you're under magical attack all the time. And really, your only solution is self mastery. It's so that's why you don't really get to pick and choose. Say you worked with spellcraft and you want to be a witch, you're now going to be, whether consciously or not, channeling. because you're creating connections. You're a medium. So the magician with his wands, one pointing up and one pointing down, as above, so below, he's a link within the cosmic circuit. And when you're a part of the circuit, you're channeling the energy through you. You're part of the loop. You're part of the creation cycle. You're channeling. And so I feel like this is where a lot of people don't realize that. So if it's like you want to talk to your friend, you get in a relationship, and there's a bridge, there's a medium between you, air, that the words and the thoughts move through. And so you have to be receptive to it. And so there's a receptivity that happens. There's a psychic receptivity to work with spirits and whatever it is. So it doesn't matter where you start. Oh, I just want to be psychic, or oh, I just want to have visions, or oh, I just want to develop my magical abilities, and I only want to do spell casting, or I only want to be a healer and just channel energy. Well, you've just opened up everything. And all of this is dependent on your personal ability to govern and focus your energy at will, to your will. So when you're like, shield, I need a shield around me. I need my energy to concentrate around me and not be dispersed. So I'm picking up all of my coworkers' thoughts and feelings and losing myself in a crowd, to have that self-mastery, that control. We do go to purity. We do go to purification. You learn to filter, okay, that's theirs. Okay, this is mine. And through that contrast, it creates a boundary. And so this is all dependent on your will. So people with the old school religious mindset have hidden beliefs of forces outside of themselves having power over them, like, and it gets promoted in the new age world. Why are you going through these hardships? Your angel says you're going to learn this. Well, that's kind of saying other forces dictate your life. You have no real control. And then, so like, it's like a forced lesson upon you for your highest good. That doesn't really seem fair. So there's a lot of spiritual new age beliefs, and it's all very externalized power. You get, and it's just a shift in perspective. And it goes beyond, happening for me. Yeah, a lot of bad things happen, and you can look at that. You can do some psychological reframing, but really at the level of mastership, that's not going to cut it. You're like, no, this is severe pain. I need to master my energy. I need to bring it in. I need to ground. And so you're forced to do the very basic fundamentals. So the technique may have pried open the doors. The hallucinogenic drug may have opened doors. Sitting at the guru's feet may have opened doors. Having some spiritual experiences, some paranormal activity may have opened doors. But you're vulnerable. And the cure is those basics, block, kick, punch. When you're doing martial arts, you can only block, kick, punch, very basic movements. When you master them, it creates a beautiful technique, it creates a kata, and you can fight and self-defend. You can express yourself very gracefully in a stylized way. It's art. But you have to master block, kick, punch. So you have to master grounding, being willing to be fully in your body, fully you, with everything right and everything wrong with your life. Uh, the kind of more modern term is staying in your frame, staying in your lane, you know. So you have to come back to ground zero. You have to come back to your body. So, and make it worth being in. You want your body to be your temple, but you also want it to be your fortress. So it's like when other forces are coming to you, the one thing you have on this journey is your body. The other thing you have is the earth and its resources. So grounding, earthing, is essential to energy mastery. Honestly, master grounding and feeling grounded in your body, which, you know, doesn't sound like fun, but it actually creates the magnetic polarity to the energies that you're going to be working with. And the greater the magnet, the more energy you can pull in. So it becomes a very powerful tool. So, an example, I got in this like psychic witch war with this person, and when they shot out all this willful, aggressive, frustrating energy from their solar plex chakra, from their identity, from, you know, that drive, it came to me. I held out my hand, absorbed all of it, and like my legs were shaking as all this energy, this hostility was coming towards me. You know, it was creating ripples. You know, our body is water. It was creating some disturbances in the forest. I like grabbed it all, and then I just grounded. Then the war was over. There was no more energy to fight with. And then we went our separate ways. And then, like a week later, this person was like, I don't know what Onyx did, but he stole all my power. And then that person got sick and actually died. And what was going on was I was just mastering my energy. I was just owning my aura, owning it, and working with grounding. All that was not mine, I did not keep. You know, I just channeled it. So I literally, the energy just hit and I just dropped it straight down into the earth. I go, I'm not taking this on. It's a misunderstanding. I'm not the one. I'm not the target. I'm not actually going against you. It's just the way this is going down. It's not the way it's going to go down. So give me all you got. So she gave me all she got. Boom. And then she depleted her energy resource. And apparently that was, you know, her only technique. So I just grounded it. I trusted my body and I trusted my willpower. There was no doubt. There was no room for doubt. You know, it was a psychic battle. You know, I was calling out a narcissist or whatever she was. Whatever it was, I was calling it out. And it comes with a consequence. So you either face it or not. You either show up for reals and stand behind your word, stand behind your desire, or fail. So I chose to stand behind my desire, which was, you know, let's put an end of this bullshit. Let's take off our masks and see who we are. And that person chose, you know, it really felt like Yoda and Palpatine going at it. And I'm like, I don't got time for all the fancy stuff, you know, so just give it to me. Just lash out. Boom. And drop. And so that would be an example of literally channeling their hostility, being a master of channeling it and dropping it into the earth. grounding. So that would be the story. So even though, yeah, I just want to like love and light and always channel and work with my guides, but sometimes you can use those same techniques for self defense. And I find that's also part of self healing. It's like I go out into the world so open, so expanded. Why am I doing that to myself? Number one, I haven't solved that. But you pick stuff up from clients, you pick stuff up from in the customer service industry, you pick it up through other drivers, and everyone isn't managing their own self. They're not managing their energy. They're under, I would say, they're under attack by their own programming. Their own psychological baggage is weighing them down. And a lot of people don't have the tools. And what's really interesting is all you have to do is learn to ground. And that really helps you clear, lighten the load. It's like you're tired, take off that backpack that's full of rocks and empty the backpack or leave the backpack. Leave it behind, drop it off. Don't own it anymore. Let it go. Free yourself is really how you can master everything if you do that. I mean, I mean, we really kind of went a little bit in a different direction with this channeling video, but it's relevant because so much reason why people get defensive or feel like they need to protect or need to defend. We always think we're protecting and defending. And really what we're doing is we're lashing out in resistance to things we don't understand. And so it actually is warfare, energy warfare. And when you just really learn how to ground, is then it starts giving you a foundation. That's the cornerstone of your psychic temple that you can then become centered on, which will go into other principles. But it's very basic. Ground, center, align, open up, receive. Dial in and receive. These are very basic principles that you have to practice every day over a lifetime. It never gets old. And then pretty soon you get your black belt in grounding, centering, aligning, and then you're the master of magic, or you're a master channeler. You're spiritualized, you're woke, whatever you want to